Good morning readers, it's Tilly here from Tilly's Shelf and welcome to another bookish breakfast. This is going to have to be quite a quick one and there's a potential that I might get cut off by my alarm for needing to leave for work because oh dear, it's my first day in a new department today and we start half an hour earlier, and honestly the thing that I'm most worried about is being late because of the earlier start. So I haven't finished any book this week. We've been doing pretty well. I've been doing a book review most weeks, I don't know if you've noticed, and I was quite enjoying that, but I haven't finished a book to be able to review on this week. And why is that? I was reading The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. My husband read this and he loved it and he really wanted me to read this, and I've been promising that I'll read it, but honestly, I'm really struggling to get through it. It's very descriptive and the descriptions are all beautiful, but at the moment, there's more description than there is character or plot, and I've heard that that's a common thing that people have with this book, is that they struggle to get through the description. It's not that I don't like it, I really appreciate the beautiful Night Circus world that she's created, but I just need a little bit more to latch onto with the actual characters, because at the moment they don't have any character traits that make them engaging to me, because basically all I've seen is their ability to do magic rather than any personal emotional aspects, other than as quite young children, if that makes sense. The two protagonists, we follow them from young children and then we jump ahead to when they are older. So while I was reading this, I was just finding that I wanted to read basically absolutely everything, any other book that I saw. I was like, oh, I could read that instead. And in the end, my mum found on a discount on the Amazon store, I'll get back to the cover, a book called How to Treat People by Molly Case. And Molly Case is a nurse. When I was training, she was kind of like a student nurse celebrity, if that makes sense. She did this very moving poem, which I have a feeling it's called In Our Hands. I really should have looked it up. I'll try and link it below, maybe not this morning, but when I come back to do more editing on this, the description box and stuff, I will try and link it below eventually. That was, I think it was at RCN Congress, and it was really shared on social media. It was a really a moment where people were actually looking at nurses and what nurses say and what nurses do, and that was really impressive and inspiring. But also I don't know, it was always oh well, you could be like Molly Case and you could do this, and as a student nurse, I was never particularly exceptional, but knowing how much better Molly Case was always was a little bit undermining, which is in a jokey way, I mean. But I'm really glad to read this. This is her book about obviously working as a nurse. And yeah, she's very good at conveying the job, conveying the emotion of the job. Normally with medical memoirs, there's a point that makes you cry. This is making me cry about once every chapter, maybe once every 2 chapters. It's very she's just really very good at conveying that the intensity of scenes that might only last for one night, but while you're there in that night, you live it completely. And she's very good at making you see that as a reader. I don't know whether it works more for me because she's writing about things that are so familiar. But yeah, I would really recommend it. She's very good as well at bringing in other things. Sometimes her detours, I kind of think yeah, where are you going with this? But she does bring it back to having a point related to healthcare and specific patients as well. So that's good. She's chosen to order it via what we call ABCD. It's an assessment method. It makes sense because from very early on in your training, that is drilled into you of this is the way that you order everything. You order everything by ABCDE. I'm not entirely convinced yet that ABCDE ordering of things works for books as well as for patients. So ABCDE is airway, breathing, circulation, disability and exposure, and it's a way of working through problems to make sure that you always start with the one that is the most life-threatening first, which is always going to be airway, but you don't miss anything that could be life-threatening, if that makes sense. So what else have I been reading? I've been reading this very exciting book on burns, which may or may not have something to do with the work that I'm going to be doing now that, fingers crossed, COVID is starting to decline. I was hoping to have finished it by now, but I'm only like a third of the way through it. It's readable. It's surprisingly readable for a medical handbook. It's probably the most readable medical handbook I've ever had to read. It's just not a gripping novel. But it's not supposed to be. And then just contributing to the theme of visions of healthcare that I have been having now that I've stopped reading the Night Circus for now. I've been reading some poems by Sylvia Plath. This is Crossing the Water. This is a poetry collection that was put together by Ted Hughes after she had died, and it was gathered together in 1971, I think, but it's all poems that she wrote in 1960 to 61, I think. Yeah, I think so. 1960 and 1961, after the publication of the Colossus and before the composition of the poems in Ariel. So kind of an in-between phase in her life. And what surprises me is how many of these poems are to do with or set in a kind of healthcare world. So the poem that I read yesterday, I'm trying to read one poem every day so far this year. The poem I read yesterday was The Surgeon at 2 a.m. And if I don't get cut off, I'm just going to quickly read it for you. Because, I mean, like, the vision of healthcare that Sylvia Plath generates compared to the one from Molly Case, I just think it's quite an interesting juxtaposition because it's so wild and macabre, the one that Sylvia Plath is generating. And that's not to say there's not a lot of humour in some of these poems, there's not a lot of, like, beautiful and joyful scenes, but this is very gothic. So The Surgeon at 2 a.m. The white light is artificial and hygienic as heaven. The microbes cannot survive it. They are departing in their transparent garments, turned aside from the scalpels and the rubber hands. The scalded sheet is a snowfield, frozen and peaceful. The body under it is in my hands. As usual, there is no face, a lump of Chinese white with 7 holes thumbed in. The soul is another light. I have not seen it. It does not fly up. Tonight it has receded like a ship's light. It is a garden I have to do with, tubers and fruits oozing their jammy substances, a mat of roots. My assistants hook them back. Stenches and colours assail me. This is the lung tree. These orchids are splendid. They spot and coil like snakes. The heart is a red bell bloom in distress. I am so small in comparison to these organs. I worm and hack in a purple wilderness. The blood is a sunset. I admire it. I am up to my elbows in it, red and squeaking. Still, it seeps up. It is not exhausted. So magical. A hot spring I must seal off and let fill the intricate blue piping under this pale marble. How I admire the Romans, aqueducts, the baths of Caracalla, the eagle nose. The body is a Roman thing. It has shut its mouth on the stone pill of repose. It is a statue the orderlies are wheeling off. I have perfected it. I am left with an arm or a leg, a set of teeth or stones to rattle in a bottle and take home, and tissue in slices, a pathological salami. Tonight the parts are entombed in an icebox. Tomorrow they will swim in vinegar like saints' relics. Tomorrow the patient will have a clean pink plastic limb. Over one bed in the ward, a small blue light announces a new soul. The bed is blue tonight for this person. Blue is a beautiful colour. The angels of Morphia have borne him up. He floats an inch from the ceiling, smelling the dawn draughts. I walk among sleepers in gauze sarcophagi. The red night lights are flat moons. They are dull with blood. I am the sun in my white coat. Grey faces, shuttered by drugs, follow me like flowers. It's a really great poem because it conveys both the, like, kind of weird respect and admiration for the power that the surgeon has, but also distinctly being unnerved by that, and you know how kind of scary and weird it can be as well. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I just wanted to say, like, reading these healthcare books and stuff has come at a time when the UK government has decided to announce that 1% is all that nurses are worth in terms of the work that we've done in the pandemic. This is not about me and what I earn, it's about people who are looking at coming into nursing as a profession and saying, well, not only might I be forced to work in a pandemic, but I'll have to pay for my training. People will clap for me, people will call me a hero, but actually at the end of it, for all the risks that I've taken, there will be no compensation. So if you just search fair pay for nurses, you can have a little better idea of what that's about, I suppose. Yeah, anyway, thank you for watching and take care. I'll speak to you soon.